Europe braced itself. A storm was brewing. On one side stood the King of France, Philip IV, a man of iron will and unyielding ambition. He was determined to assert his authority over matters temporal and spiritual. On the other side stood Pope Boniface VIII, the Vicar of Christ, a fiery defender of papal supremacy. He believed his power eclipsed that of any king. Their battleground? The very soul of Christendom. This was no mere political dispute. It was a clash of ideologies, a battle for the heart of medieval Europe. The stakes were high. Souls hung in the balance. The outcome of this epic confrontation would determine the fate of nations and the future of the Church itself. Imagine a world where faith permeated every aspect of life. This was the reality of medieval Europe. The Catholic Church, a powerful and pervasive force, held sway over the hearts and minds of millions. It dictated morality, influenced politics, and shaped the destiny of nations. Kings ruled by divine right. They answered to God, or so it seemed. Yet, even within this rigid hierarchy, tension simmered. The Church, under the leadership of the Pope, claimed dominion over all Christian souls. It wielded immense spiritual power, yet earthly kings were not content to be mere puppets of Rome. They sought to consolidate their own power, to forge strong nations under their rule. This delicate balance, this intricate dance between the crown and the crozier, had long defined the medieval world. But that balance was about to be shattered. And when it finally came, it would shake the very foundations of medieval Europe. Section 4. The Tax That Ignited a Firestorm. The year was 1296. France was at war with England. Philip, desperately needing funds to finance his military campaigns, made an audacious move. He levied taxes on the clergy of France. This act, seemingly innocuous in a time of national crisis, struck at the very heart of the Church's power. The clergy, accustomed to exemption from royal taxation, cried foul. They appealed to Boniface for protection. Boniface, outraged by Philip's audacity, responded with a thunderous decree. In 1296, he issued the papal bull Clarissus Laicos, forbidding secular rulers from taxing the clergy without papal consent. He reminded Philip that the Church held spiritual authority, and any attempt to usurp its power would be met with swift and decisive action. Boniface's message was clear. He would brook no interference in the affairs of the Church. The lines were drawn. Philip, unwilling to back down, found himself locked in a battle of wills with the most powerful religious figure in Christendom. The stage was set for a showdown that would determine the balance of power between Church and state for centuries to come. Section 5. Papal Bulls and Royal Fury. The conflict escalated. Boniface, determined to assert his authority, issued a series of increasingly inflammatory papal bulls. Each one was a direct challenge to Philip's authority. One such bull, Unam Sanctam, proclaimed the absolute supremacy of the papacy over all rulers. It declared that every human creature is subject to the Roman pontiff. These pronouncements infuriated Philip. He accused Boniface of heresy, simony, and even murder. Philip, a master of political maneuvering, rallied the French clergy and nobility to his side. He convened an assembly accusing Boniface of various crimes and demanding a church council to depose him. The conflict, once a dispute over taxation, had morphed into a full-blown crisis of authority. Europe held its breath. Section 6. The outrage at Anagni. The tension finally snapped in 1303. Philip, determined to silence Boniface once and for all, dispatched his agents to Italy. They stormed the papal palace at Anagni, a small town south of Rome. The Pope, elderly and frail, was taken prisoner. The sight of the Vicar of Christ, humiliated and under guard, sent shockwaves throughout Christendom. This act, a brazen assault on the papacy, became known as the outrage at Anagni. Although Boniface was soon released, the humiliation proved too much for the aging pontiff. He died weeks later, his spirit broken. The image of his imprisonment, however, would forever be seared into the annals of history. It served as a stark reminder of the shifting balance of power in Europe. Section 7. Echoes of Anagni, a shifting power balance. The echoes of the confrontation between Philip IV and Boniface VIII reverberated long after the Pope's death. While Philip may have won the battle, he inadvertently paved the way for a decline in papal authority. The papacy, weakened and discredited, would never again wield the same level of influence over the rulers of Europe. The papacy eventually relocated to Avignon, France, where it remained under the influence of the French crown for decades. This period, known as the Avignon Papacy, further eroded the Church's authority and sowed the seeds of dissent that would eventually lead to the Protestant Reformation. The legacy of the clash between Philip and Boniface was a Europe forever changed. The balance of power had shifted. The seeds of a new era had been sown.